Yeah, I think that would be the ideal scenario. I think that, we have to also look at, in terms of a potential bottom, keep in mind that Bitcoin's previous bear markets have all gone down more than this one. And so you also have to say, wait, this is the first bear market where the Fed's not printing money and they're actually tightening. Yet it doesn't make sense for the bear market in Bitcoin to only be down 70% versus the 80 to 85 normally it goes down. And maybe adoption has helped. But again, you just have to, for me as a very logical robotic trader, it gives me pause, right? And again, one of the biggest things, and I know you tell that you guys this, is that so that's the key, right? So number one, I think we have to look at it in perspective. And I think this is the key, right? Is that number one, and let me show my chart here. Let's take a look at the charts, is that it's been an awesome pump. And you can see the breakout when it occurred. You take this high, which was the FTX beginning collapse high. You connect it to that secondary high, and you could see when the breakout occurred right here. This one candle right here checked back to that line, and then off to the races it went. And now the key is this, right? Is we've had this beautiful move up on Bitcoin, but look at where it stalled out, right at that FTX high. And remember that, the FTX high represents a psychological hurdle for the market, and meaning that this was where a lot of people were buying Bitcoin over here, thinking, oh, it was finally bottoming. We were going sideways for a long period of time, and then the rug got pulled out from underneath them. And so the reason why this pivot high is such a key resistance level is because when individual investors lose a chunk of their account very, very quickly, when they get back to break even, there's this tendency to say, okay, my account is back to where it was. Let me sell, right? So that's essentially what you have going on here, is that all these people over here are now break even, and they're saying, okay, let me sell and exit the position. And so that creates that resistance line. In addition, it's a psychological level. We all know that this is where the fraud came to light on FTX, where the debacle kind of occurred. And so if price could get above there, that would be impressive, right? That would be a psychological break point. But as long as we stay below this in the near term, I think you have to be a little bit measured in your approach to how bullish you are. So if you put it in perspective, look at the move we're talking about, right? Look at that little bit of a move right there. So again, I'm all for price action, and volatility is what I live off of, right? I can make money in moves to the upside and downside. I just can't make money when the market does nothing. And we've been in that long period where it was doing nothing. So now we're getting some opportunities. Now I have looked at I've put out some trade signals short. We shorted Solana, Ethereum right up in this range. I haven't done Bitcoin yet. I still have a long position in Bitcoin that I'm holding just in case it breaks out. But ultimately, I do believe that we should pull back here in the next week or so. I'm in the camp that it's an expected bear market rally, and I can't wait for the day where I can go all out bull on Bitcoin and say, okay, now we're finally made a bottom. But, a couple things concern me. Number one, I've never seen a bear market end with this much hype out of a small move to the upside, right? So again, we showed that big picture about the type of move. Usually when bear markets end, people on the they're like, wait a minute, I don't trust this because I've been burned so many times. In addition, it's very common, and I showed this, let me show my my Tesla chart here, but it's very common in bear markets for the market to have, or that individual stock to have, pretty significant moves to the upside. So let me see if I can do this here, a price range, right? So if you look at Tesla, right, from peak to trough right here, that's a 48% move. And look at price after that. It still collapsed to the downside. So, there's this term in the stock market, and now it applies to crypto and commodities, everything. It's called, in bear markets, you get these rip your face off rallies. Like, they're so intense that they lure people into believing that the bear market is over, only to dash their dreams and push it to new lows. And so I'm kind of in that camp where, to me, at this stage, it's about, about a 35% rally off of the lows, give or take. Yep. So far, to me, we haven't taken off the FTX high. We're still in a phase of Fed tightening, right? They haven't even gone to neutral yet. And so I have to at least err on the side of caution and more sell into the rallies versus buying here for a bigger move. So, I mean, I definitely, I mean, listen, the cheaper it gets, the more I can buy, right? So I'm not opposed to it coming back in. So yeah, I mean, if I had to hope for one direction, I would like for it to come back in just so I could buy more, frankly, as I am a huge long-term bull. So yeah, I think that would be the ideal scenario. I think that, we have to also look at, in terms of a potential bottom, keep in mind that Bitcoin's previous bear markets have all gone down more than this one. And so you also have to say, wait, this is the first bear market where the Fed's not printing money and they're actually tightening. Yet it doesn't make sense for the bear market in Bitcoin to only be down 70% versus the 80 to 85 normally it goes down. And maybe that is, maybe adoption has helped. But again, you just have to, for me as a very logical robotic trader, it gives me pause, right? And again, one of the biggest things, and I know you tell you guys this, is that you can't let emotion cloud your judgment. As much as I want Bitcoin to go to $1 million or wherever it is, you have to look at it in this very even, like, pros and cons list and see what makes sense. And then that's the way you kind of position yourself. And again, by no means does that mean I don't have any long Bitcoin. I have long on Bitcoin. I just don't have as much as I want when I think the bottom is finally in. Yeah, and I think one of the things to kind of keep in mind for investors too is, like, think about the reverse of what happened in 2021. And if I show my chart here, right? So I don't know, where's my chart there, if it's coming up or not. There we go.
There it is.
All right, so what we can see here on the chart, right, is that over here in 2021, we had kind of the inverse of maybe what's happening. You had this big sell-off, then you had this big pop, and then you had the bear market start. So I wonder if it's possible that this is the inverse of it. So that was an M pattern. What if this is a W, and then you have that one final flush to kind of catch everyone off guard, and then you have so again, it's the same kind of thing as where here everyone started to get really bearish on the charts, and then it flushed all of them out. Here you're having everyone getting bullish. The question is, does it have that kind of W pattern formation to it? And again, time will tell, right? I mean, that's the crazy thing about it. We don't know for sure until it actually happens. And I think that's important for people to understand, is that, like, there's points where, like, if we get above the FTX high pivot and we start to consolidate and make a bull flag, then I read the bull flag and I know the support level, and then I buy the bull flag for a move up. Now, maybe I'm not in it for a long period of time. Maybe I'm only in it for 20% gain, but there's always trades. It doesn't matter. Like, the most important thing, a good investor and trader is neither a bull nor a bear. You just take advantage of whichever side has the higher probability. Yeah, I do think it will be one piece of the puzzle, right? So, I mean, the beautiful thing about it is I view over the next 24, well, more so 12 months or just beyond, which takes us to the halving, is that you're going to have multiple pieces of the puzzle fall into place. Number one, you're going to get regulation, and regulation will breed transparency, which will then convince big money that it's safe again after FTX to get back involved. And that's money that you need to drive up price. Then you take into account, okay, now you have transparency in a sector. It's getting more credibility, because I think regulation, weirdly enough, brings about kind of, this realization that if the government's regulating it, then they say that it's a legitimate type of investment, right? So that brings back that side of it. Then you take the halving into account, and yeah, these are all things that together should bring about that bull market. So I do think it's coming back, and I actually think that the next bull market will be probably the longest bull, and maybe, percentage-wise, maybe not, because when it was, when Bitcoin was $1 or $2, obviously percentage-wise, but I think that this next bull market can really shoot it way above 100,000, because I think the transparency will then bring about, big money investment coming into it. It is a mix of things, and the one thing I would just say is, like, when too many, and this goes for highs and lows on Bitcoin too, right? So if too many people believe that halving will create the next mega run, then it probably won't. So I think we just have to be kind of aware of that. And it's not to say that it won't help Bitcoin and everything like that, but it does concern me as well, is that when everyone's like, oh, the next bull market will happen on this date because of the halving, that's like, that makes me real nervous. Like, the market has a funny way of proving the majority wrong in these scenarios. And we saw it at the highs on Bitcoin. When Bitcoin was 69,000, the majority, I mean, like 95% of people were like, Bitcoin's going to 100K. And of course it goes to 20 or sub 20 instead. So just be careful. Like, it's the same thing in stocks investing, is like, when everyone's saying, like, this event is going to be a huge deal and it's going to create this move, chances are it's going to be the opposite move. And the beautiful thing about it, I mean, in crypto, it's going to continue to be exciting because there's just so much new stuff coming out, whether it's technology wise or if it's like, you know, just about the price action and the regulation. I mean, it's going to be a great space to pay attention to over the next couple of years. And I do believe that, you know, if you ask me where Bitcoin is 6 months from now, I think personally it's probably lower. If you say where is it 2 years, 3 years from now, I think it's quite a bit higher. Yeah, so I think for me it's taking out key technical levels, right? And so for me it's drawing my trend lines on the chart. You know, you do watch the moving averages. I'm a big fan of the moving averages. The only thing with moving averages that have me a little bit more skeptical these days about their importance is that the more people that use them, the less importance they have, right? So again, you know, it's like, you know, for especially like the 20 moving average and the 50, I still rely heavily on the 100, 150, and 200. But like, if you ask any investor out there, they're like, oh, I watch the 50 moving average or I watch the 200. Like, it's a very common thing. And again, what that means is that because we're above the 200, and one of the reasons why I wouldn't be surprised if it dumps back below is that so many people are like, oh, we're above the 200, this has to be a real breakout. And then the market is like, well, you know what, we got everyone suckered in, let's take it the other way, right? So I think for me it's more like technical levels that are psychological, right? The market is so psychological. So that FTX level where the debacle occurred is like huge. And then if you go a little bit further out, you start looking at the Terra Luna level, right? Where Terra Luna collapsed. Can you get above these technical levels? You know, one level I'll show you guys here. Let me bring up my chart again. And if we look here, right, let me get rid of these lines that I drew on the chart here. But like one thing that would be really interesting to me is if you take this line here and you stretch it out, it's around 40,000. If we somehow got above that, that would be potentially a new bull market to me. And the reason I say that is, number one, it's a major trend line here, right? So it's kind of this breakdown point, but it's also more than 50% retracement at that point. So you would then essentially, if you look at where we were 16,000 to 41 and then 41 to 69, you're basically at that 50%-ish level as well. So to get above that, you would really start to change the narrative on where crypto's going and starting to get it really hyped up again. So right now it's into resistance. So I would never buy into resistance. I mean, that's like starting to run a marathon right in front of a brick wall and you slam yourself into a brick wall. So for me, it would have to break. And then even on a break, I don't buy it because that's called chasing. Instead, it would have to break and then consolidate. And then if it builds a consolidation is like digesting a move, right? So it's digesting, getting more energy. It's building that energy up in that flag pattern to make the next big move. And that's where the probabilities start to get towards that 60, 70, 80% chance that you can make money. And really for me, like I at minimum, I'm looking for, like, if I calculate out probabilities, I want 70% chance that I'm going to win. Otherwise, like, I'd much rather go to the casino if it's 50-50 odds, get free drinks, hang out with my buddies. Like, that's gambling. I'm not here to gamble.
Yeah.